Stand up, fight back! Workers' rights are under attack! What do we do? Stand up, fight back!
One of the things that happened to me on and on my service is doing this crazy thing, arresting 20 kids just to bring the message for a village that a nonviolent protest will not happen in our watch.
Hello, my name is Stanley Heller. Welcome to The Struggle. The Struggle is shown on 22 cable stations from Vermont to New York City, on the internet at thestruggle.org, our YouTube channel, Struggle Video Media. We begin on Black Friday in Hartford, Connecticut, with people at one of the over 1,000 support actions for Walmart workers. Walmart, the nation's largest employer, notoriously has almost no unionized labor. Recently, Walmart workers and workers at suppliers went on strike, hoping to achieve better conditions and pay, and some of the actions were successful. Then to two speakers who appeared at Tree of Life conferences for Palestine. One is a fed-up Israeli soldier who was part of breaking the silence. The other is a Palestinian school principal from Beit Sahur, whose family was shot at in a huge hail of Israeli bullets. We begin in front of Walmart.
Workers' rights are under attack! What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
Workers' rights are under attack! What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
Josh, what's going on here?
We are conducting a demonstration, a solidarity action with Walmart actions happening all over the country right now for two reasons. First of all, tell the workers here at this store at Flatbush Avenue here in Hartford that we stand in solidarity with them and that we support their right to organize. And secondly, to tell the bosses here that this community will not stand for any intimidation or retaliation against those workers.
Have you been in touch with workers? Are they been complaining about conditions at Walmart?
These stories coming out of this store, but also nationwide, including warehouses, show that Walmart, which is the nation's largest private employer, is using intimidation tactics and retaliation against those who are trying to speak up and to organize. And we don't accept that.
I understand there's almost no unions at Walmart.
That's correct, and this actually all started with warehouses that supply Walmart, and those workers are actually not Walmart employees, but it's now created a domino effect that it's going from the warehouses and now directly to the stores where workers are standing up for their rights.
So you say this is going on other places here on Black Friday?
Yeah, we have 5 stores here in Connecticut where solidarity actions are occurring, and this is a nationwide day of action for the Walmart campaign to organize workers.
And have you heard from people inside there? Are they encouraged about this?
Yes, there's people have been coming out, getting leaflets, and thanking us for being here.
All right, thanks a lot.
Workers' Walmart have to hide! Switch our products made inside! Switch our products made inside! Workers' Walmart have to hide! Switch our products made inside! Walmart have to hide! Switch our products made inside! Get up! Get down! Get down! Walmart have to hide! Workers Walmart have to hide! They say roll back! We say fight back! They say roll back! We say fight back! They say roll back! We say fight back! Goals with living wages. Walmart, you can't replace us. Hey, hey!
Union Buses got to go. Union Buses got to go. Hey, hey!
Dissent among Israeli Jews these days is very tiny. It's estimated that only 5% of Israeli Jews oppose the recent assault on Gaza. Yet those who do dissent are frequently awesome. There is a group called Breaking the Silence. Veteran Israeli soldiers disgusted about what they are doing. Eran Efrati spoke at the Tree of Life conference in Old Lyme, Connecticut.
So we know we have very short time, and we would like to give you a glimpse into what is the Zionist narrative to the Israeli young men and women growing up in Israel, growing up in Jerusalem. My name is Eran Efrati, and I'm 27 years old, and I'm a seventh generation in Jerusalem. My grandpa was actually a Palestinian Jew growing up at the old city, growing up with a Palestinian family that raised him and adopted him after his mother died when he came to the world. I grew up with the notion that my grandpa is a hero. My grandpa grew up to join the Irgun, the Lehi. He was an Israeli freedom fighter, if you want, against the British colonialism. I grew up on the nation that he is probably one of the most bravest people I know, and I will definitely want to be someone like him who's fighting for freedom and human rights of people everywhere. But he grew up, and my family grew up with him, and they grew up very differently than what I imagined as a young boy in Jerusalem. From my other side of the family, from my mother's side, my grandpa and grandma came from Hungary after the Holocaust. They were both survivors. My grandma was a survivor of Auschwitz. I grew up with my grandma and were very close to her for all of my life. All through my childhood, I remembered my grandma waking up in the middle of the night, screaming, going around in the house. My mother used to tell me she still has dreams about people coming to take her, people coming to kill her. It was, of course, very obvious to me. I grew up with the notion that the Holocaust is only one thing, and it can only happen to Jewish people. I grew up in a very Zionist house, like I think most of the Israelis are. My brother was an officer in a special unit of the parachutes in Israel. My mother was an officer in the army. My father was an officer in the army, and until today is the head of investigation in the Israeli police. I grew up with the notion that Zionism is just making sure there will be no other Holocaust, to making sure that Jews can just live with everybody else. I grew up with the notion that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitic. I grew up with the notion that if you do not believe in a state only for Jewish people, you maybe support the killing of Jewish people. I grew up in a house that it was certain for me to go to the army, and it was certain for me to go to my Poland trip in the 11th grade, like every other kid in Israel, or most kids in Israel. I was sent into delegations to Poland to visit the camps. And after 2 weeks, very intense 2 weeks in the camps in Poland, the message was very clear. We can never let this happen again. And the only way to prevent it from happening again is to go back home and join the army. Join the army, and if you can, join the combat soldiers in the army, and make sure that it will not happen again. So I'm finishing my school a year afterwards, and I'm very thrilled to join the army. And this is me. I know. I'm joining the army very gladly. I believe in moral, I believe in human rights, and I believe that as an officer to be, I can be all of that, and I will be all of that. After 7 months of training, of waiting for a war that never came in my times, a war from Egypt or Syria or Lebanon, but never discussion about the occupied territories, I'm getting to my first line of duty with Hebron, or El Halil. And Hebron, to which of you have never been there or never will, is probably the most complicated place you will ever see, and maybe perhaps the most terrible place you will ever see. Hebron, just very shortly, is a city it's a Palestinian city with a settlement in the middle of it, a settlement of 800 Jewish settlers with 500 army soldiers always protecting them, and 200 more cops always protecting them, and more armies always there to come, and numerous of checkpoints, and a very, very hard life. On these 800 settlers, there's 180,000 Palestinians that their life just stopped after 67. They're living in completely control of an apartheid system with separated roads and houses and sidewalks. And when I'm getting there, I have no idea what I'm gonna get. And the first weeks we're getting there, we're getting into a curfew that we need to put on the civilians in Hebron. Then anybody knows maybe what the difference between a closure and a curfew, just really quickly? Well, a closure basically is when you're closing an area or a city or a village, and people cannot move outside or inside that area. A curfew is everyone to his home, or wherever you are the moment the curfew is handing out. The first weeks of my duty in Hebron, we were there with another unit, and this is what we're doing. We're making sure there's a curfew and everybody's home. One of these nights, after about 3 weeks, I'm at the base, and I'm hearing that there was a shooting or there was an attack on the soldiers, but that something happened, and the rest of the guys are on their way back to the base. The guys are coming back. It's the unit I didn't know yet until then, but my future is going to be very fast, very bound with that. They're coming back to the base, and they're all shot. One of the guys going into my bed and sitting on my bed, and I'm saying, what happened? So you got shot, something happened? We were preparing for this all through the service. And he said, I think I just killed a little boy. And I couldn't really understand what does it mean, I think I killed a little boy. And after hours and hours of talking between ourselves, the soldier, we understand one or two things. There was a young boy on a roof. It was an evening. He was holding or a broom or a gun toy. And the soldiers just shot him. And he died at place. All through the night, we were thinking, what can we do? It was so shocking to us, or to some of us at least. And one of the ideas was, today it looks so crazy, especially after you spoke, the idea of us going to their house and somehow ask for forgiveness. But instead, we wake up the next morning to our commanders telling us that we need to come and make sure the curfew is very tight this morning, because the funeral is supposed to be this morning, and the government called, or the security called, or someone called to the army, to my unit, and told them, we are preparing for a revenge attack. So there's supposed to be a revenge attack, so you need to make sure everybody's close in their homes. And we're going back to Abu Sinena's neighborhood in El Khalil, to the house where a kid just been shot a few hours before that, when people are preparing to go out for a funeral. And I don't know how, but we found ourselves in a situation were closing the funeral inside the home and threatening all the rest of the people they will get arrested. The father of the little boy got arrested in the end by my commanders. The mother of the little boy didn't stop screaming. And the screaming was exactly the kind of screams that my grandma used to wake me up with in the middle of the night for all of my childhood. And it wasn't the first thing, and it wasn't the last thing, but it was one of the times in my service that it was clear to me that I'm not the person I thought I am, and I didn't came the way I thought I am, and I don't fight on human rights, and I didn't fight for the right to freedom of people. I'm doing the exact opposite. From that point on, everything seems so crazy. I did everything. I did the checkpoints. I did the checking in the houses. I did the arrest. Everyone, with kids and grown-ups and elderly people. And I did it like a machine, because something just shut up inside of me. The idea of just leaving the army was never an option when I grew up. The idea of leaving the army was crazy. It was crazier than death. Just leaving. I knew I would not have a home to come back to. So I finished my service. And the day I finished my service, I swear that this is what I was going to do with my life. I swear that I'm going to tell these stories to as many people as I can. I joined immediately the same day a group called Breaking the Silence. Breaking the Silence is a group that collects testimonies from soldiers all over the West Bank and Gaza. I was the main investigator for 2.5 years. I collected testimonies for the Gaza massacre in 2009, and the booklet of Hebron and other booklets that came out from Breaking the Silence. But in some point I also understand, and can I steal some of your time? So I'm stealing some of your time. Thank you. In some point I understand that the NGOs in Israel, the NGO I worked with, and I worked with a lot of NGOs around me, got a glass ceiling in them. In some point, the Israeli NGOs are very busy talking with the Israeli public and with the Jewish public. One of the things that happened to me on and on my service is doing something, doing this crazy thing, arresting 20 kids just to bring the message for a village that a nonviolent protest will not happen in our watch. And coming back home and hearing that my unit, from the news, from the radio, from the TV, hearing that my unit stopped 20 terrorists around the weekend in Palestine. Very shortly, it took me to understand that we are being lied to. And the idea of just trying to talk with the Israeli public, hoping they will change their mind, it's hopeless not only because there's so many interests, political and finance, invested in this occupation, but also that the brainwashing and the education we grew up on and the cynical use of the Holocaust over and over again was so deep in me, in my friend, in my family. My mother lied to me, my father lied to me. And I decided I want to stop lying to people. And one of the things we believed in is that if we don't want to lie anymore, we need to say that all the peace process is not going anywhere. And the Israelis will not let go of their control willingly, with no pressure. And the only way we see effective today changes something in Palestine, in Israel, and for the Middle East, and for us as Jews in Israel, is the pressure of joining the call from 2005 of the Palestinian people for boycott, divestment, and sanction in Israel. So we want to invite you to go home checked for the website of Breaking the Silence, the website of Anarchists Against the Wall that we were both in, and most important, the website of the BDS movement and the boycott from within, and trying to help us stop the occupation. Thank you very much.
I'm speaking to George Saada, who's a principal at Shepherd's High School in Beit Sahur, and also the deputy mayor of Bethlehem. At this event at Yale, there was referred to as some tragic incident in 2003. Could you tell what happened to your family?
Well, on the 25th of March at 2003, I was driving in the midtown of Bethlehem with my family, with my wife and with my two daughters. And I was going shopping. Christine, my little daughter, at that time she was 12 years old, and Marianne, she was 15 years old. Suddenly we passed by 3 army jeeps parked aside, but I didn't see any soldiers. And when I approached them, they start shooting at my car with many bullets, more than 300 bullets. I got injured myself, and my daughter Christine, she got hit in the head and the neck, and she passed away on the spot. She got killed. And Marianne, she got hit in her right knee, and my wife, she got hit with many shrapnels. Since that time, what happened to us was a tragedy, and we knew later on that Israeli army, they were ambushing 2 wanted people, as they claim, and we came all along together, and they came behind me and they shot the other 3 people in that car, killing them, killing my daughter, injuring me and my wife and my daughter Marianne.
Was there a battle going on? I mean, what caused
it wasn't a battle. It was just ambush to kill those 2 wanted people. And we came on the way at the same time, at the same spot. And this is what happened. But what's the important thing about it, later on, after 1 month from the incident, and it was fresh for us and it was very hard for us, Israelis people, they called me and they introduced themselves as the bereaved families, Israeli bereaved families, and they want to meet us. We didn't know at that time what's happening and what these people, but we agreed to meet each other on the borderline. And then we discussed the matter. They introduced themselves as the bereaved family who lost their children in the conflict, as well as we did. And it was something new for us. And we telling the stories of what happened to us and to them. And since that time, we became a member of the bereaved families, Israeli Palestinian bereaved families, and working for justice and peace, because we don't.
Could I ask you about your own background, your studies, and your profession?
Well, I'm a Bethlehemite, born in Bethlehem in 1961. I got my school education at Terra Santa School in Bethlehem. Then I have relatives in California, Los Angeles, so I'd like to continue my study in flying and in aeroplane and airspace. So I entered the University of Southern California, graduated with aerospace Bachelor of Science degree at that time in 1983. Since that time, I returned back home working as a mechanical engineer and teaching computer science. And I was lucky to work in the field of education, and I became in the year 2002 the director or the principal of the Shepherd's High School near the Shepherd's Field in Beit Sahur. And in 2005, when they allowed the election, the municipality election, I entered the election and became, since that time, the deputy mayor of Bethlehem. Till recently, we had another election, and another people, they came into position.
I mean, my final question is about tourism. I was in the area in 2007, and there was a lot of talk that Palestinians were being pushed out of the tourist industry, both as guides and in hotels. What has happened with that since?
Well, you know, Bethlehem, it's a historical, religious, very famous place. It's the capital city of the Christian world where our Lord Jesus Christ has born. And many tourists, they come. and many Christian pilgrims they visiting. So most of them, they come through Israel. And we had a really shortcut by tourists between the years 2001 2005 because of the conflict and the second intifada. After the year 2005, we worked very hard as churches, as communities, as Palestinian Authority to encourage the tourists to come back to Bethlehem. And we succeeded in the end of the year 2008 to reach 1 million visitors visiting the city of Bethlehem. Of course, these visitors, they need tour guides, they need hotels, and it was very hard for us because Israel does not permit for all the Palestinian Bethlehemite tour guides to enter Israel. Because they have to replace them by Israelis, but on the contrary, the Israelis tour guide, they are welcome to enter Bethlehem with their tours. And the opposite, that they don't permit to all the Palestinian Bethlehemite tour guides to continue their tours with their pilgrimage inside Israel.
A thank you to Stevie Wonder, who was persuaded by petitions and letters not to entertain the friends of the Israeli Defense Forces. Wonderful. On our site, an interview with Mazen Kumsia just hours after the truce in Gaza. That's our program for today. See you next week at this time. I'm Stanley Heller, and this is The Struggle.
When the world has gone crazy and it's all becoming clear, when they're gunning down our comrades and it seems the end is near, as they're loading up the launchers for the tear gas grenades, we can take off our bandanas and kiss behind the barricades. When it's madness all around and you can see this at a glance, we will sing and we will cry, we will laugh and we will dance as they shout their marching orders beneath the helicopter blades. We shall seize the moment for a kiss behind the barricades. They will try to break our spirit, and at times they may succeed, but our love for the world is stronger than their greed. When the building is surrounded and hope begins to fade, in my final hour, a kiss behind the barricades. As the movement grows, there will be hills and bends, but at the center of the struggle are your lovers and your friends. And the more we hold each other up, the less we can be swayed. Here's to love and solidarity, and a kiss behind the barricades.